So we're going to do this one more time. Ladies and gentlemen, no talking. We are here, live, Facebook, Instagram.
In 2021.
Episode 34, first of 2021. I am Adam Chase Rennie.
Christine Chen and
Alison Week.
Alison, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate you. Thank you for participating, even though this is sort of a mess. It's okay, because we only go by the seat of our pants, because that's how Christine rolls, and it's nice to know that, the day that I text Christine...
That's all filmmakers.
It's great that I can text Christine the day that we are doing the podcast to ask her, hey, should we do the podcast this weekend? And she's like, how about today? And I'm like, great. So now we're here. And the fact that I'm singing is the least of your worries, Christine. Okay? I'm bringing the jazz to this podcast. You kidding me now?
So this is a special podcast because this is a reunion.
This is a reunion. Why is this a reunion?
Because
actually, why don't you introduce Alison, please?
Yeah,
like, just say what Alison, you take it over. I've been talking and singing way too much, So go ahead and introduce us, and tell us what you do. Take it away.
Cool. Well, I am privy to this podcast today in part because Christine is here with me in Hawaii, and I was based in Austin up until this year, but then global pandemic, and I came home. So I'm originally here from Hawaii, born and raised on the Big Island, and I've been in Austin for like the last 8 years?
Yeah.
And I don't remember exactly when we met, but
I know how we met, but not when.
I don't remember when.
We were part of a group. Well, we are kind of until it disbanded in Austin, but the Film Fatales group, which is a nationwide group. Is it international now?
I think it's international now.
International renowned group for female filmmakers, basically. It was originally for female filmmakers have done a feature.
Yeah, either narrative or documentary.
But Austin was so small that they opened it up to people and women that had not done a feature, and that's how I met Alison.
I had done a short or two, and so I was like looking to get connected, and then I showed up at one of these meetings, and I got connected to Christine.
Yeah, lifelong friends, and the last time I saw her, we were on a gig together, actually.
I know, over the years, it's like I'll hire Christine, and Christine hires me, and then like just this wonderful like connection of filmmakers in Austin that's been really fun. So
yes,
yeah, and so it turned out that So yeah, do you want to tell them how you came to Hawaii for like Christmas? And
it's very much in my style, which is one day she had mentioned, probably just like casually, like, hey, I'm quarantining in Hawaii, and just let me know if you're ever here. Oh, happy holidays to hello, and
Happy New Year's.
Not holidays. Happy New Year's. I don't know what day it is today. And of course, randomly I messaged Alison. I was like, hey, about that thing you said like 3 months ago, can I cash that in now?
It's not the height of the pandemic or anything.
Can I come tomorrow? Pretty much. It was more like, can I come in like a week or two? And she's like, oh shit, that's the holidays. I was like, oh, what's Christmas?
Christine being last minute, that doesn't sound right.
So I moseyed on over to Kona, the Big Island.
Yeah.
And it actually works out well because Alison is in the middle, or she's really starting.
Yeah, we're in very early production of a new documentary project that I'm shooting out here.
Yes.
Yeah.
Do you want? Can you talk about it, or is it?
Yeah, I mean.
We can only talk about what you want to talk about. This is very like shoot off the cuff type of thing. So whatever you don't want to say, you don't have to. And we can also cut it, even though this is live.
Well, I'll just caveat it that it's a documentary feature that we're working on, but it's in early enough stages that we're still working on raising the funds. Like we're starting to shoot right now, but we're still raising the funds and we don't have distribution, and we're just kind of like going with it. So we're going to see where it goes, and you never know what's going to happen with the documentary, but yeah, I can definitely share with you what we're exploring. And
do tell. I think it's a really interesting topic because I think it's stories like these that Alison is, talking about that will bring more of a film community, I think, to like a place in Hawaii where the film tax incentives aren't that great. And I think topics that really help maybe the Hawaiian cultural aspect and maintaining that / bring tourism and all that stuff. So yes, tell us.
Okay, so where do I start? So 50 years before there are cowboys in Texas, there's actually cowboys here in Hawaii. And the story goes, it's like after white man showed up, basically, folks are trying to get in with Hawaii because they realize it's such a hub for travel and trade in Asia. And so folks brought over cattle. The king loved it at the time. He was like, these beasts are amazing. I don't know what they are. And he put this law out there and was like, nobody's allowed to kill these cows.
Was this during King Kamehameha? I don't mean to interrupt.
Kamehameha, yeah, King Kamehameha's time. And basically he's like put this law out there. He's like, no one's allowed to touch these cows. These cows came from who knows where across the Pacific Ocean. They survived, and there are no predators here. So the animals just like were like, hell yeah, I'm in paradise. And they're, start breeding, and now suddenly like, not that long after, suddenly there's like herds and herds of cattle, and they're stampeding through the towns. They're killing people. And it became such an issue that the king sent somebody over to Mexico to grab the vaquero cowboys over there and bring them over and teach the Hawaiians how to rope and wrangle. So they created this whole industry, very early on after white man showed up over here, that was really unique, and it became sort of its own. They had their own style, basically, of ranching and roping and wrangling and things like that. And they became some of the best cowboys in the world, and was proven that in the early 1900s, this guy who owned Parker Ranch at the time, and Parker Ranch is still one of the largest like intact ranches in the United States, if not the world. Right, I think it's like second to, what is it, King Ranch in Texas. So again, here is like, I'm seeing all these like interesting threads of having lived in Hawaii and lived in Texas, and this like cowboy element is just really fascinating. And anyway, so fast forward to today, the cowboy culture here in Hawaii is still very alive and well. And where I live is just outside of Parker Ranch. I'm right out in Waimea. Parker Ranch is still a working cattle ranch out here in Hawaii. And my neighbor, who I connected with after moving back out here, she's a filmmaker as well. And so we kind of like came together and was like, well, what's something that would be a good topic to sort of look into, especially with COVID, because we're looking at how our state economy has been impacted, the tourism's been impacted, issues like food security and sustainability. Like Christine saw when she came here, she's like, oh my God, your food here is really expensive.
Very expensive.
It's like twice as expensive as like, at least in Texas, that's for sure. Everything's so cheap in Texas. And so, yeah, so answering some of these issues, our ranchers, they have this potential to do that. They manage 25% of our state's land mass. So it's kind of like an easy access into, we're talking about environment, sustainability, economic sustainability. And then there's this huge cultural element too. It's like, how do we honor our these Hawaiian traditions, these cultural practices in a way that can really just like move us forward in this like post-pandemic world that we're looking at. And so got connected. So anyway, so this is kind of where we're starting to lead into. Now we're figuring out our characters. We've got our topic. We know who like we're interested in like exploring. And I was really kind of intentional too about like who are the women on this side, these indigenous women that are preserving these traditions and continuing these legacies. And that brings us to one of my favorite people in the world now is Lonnie Cran Petrie. And she's in the Paniolo Hall of Fame. She's one of only like 7 women that have been inducted into this like cool, awesome Paniolo cultural like network. And she runs Kapapala Ranch, which is a 34,000 acre ranch next to the volcano, which just happened to go off again like less than 2 weeks ago. So she's just like within the perimeter of an active erupting volcano and managing this ranch, basically just her and her husband and all of this cattle. And yeah, so we got an in with her very like quickly on, because she was like, actually your timing is amazing because our ranches are actually leased to us by the state. They don't own this land, which is very different than like Texas, right? It's all about private land ownership and like, this is your land, do whatever you want on it. But no, like the state actually leases it to them, and majority of their ranch right now is run on like 30-day revocable permits. Like, how do you manage a ranch that size without being able to invest anything onto it if you think that like the state's going to take that land? And because they're right next to the volcano, there's national forests, there's all these like native, you know, plants and animals are trying to rejuvenate. And so the reality is like it could happen. It's a very likely scenario. There aren't any kind of protections on the legislative side for folks like Lonnie, whose great-great-grandfather was the foreman on this ranch in the 1800s. Like, it is a rough and rugged terrain. So we were really excited to be able to like try to share her story and go and visit this ranch and see how folks like her are providing this like economic and environmentally sustainable model for caring for this land. You know, this state doesn't have the money to kind of manage this land. Like, it's pretty wild out there. And so we're working on sort of expanding what we've created as like a short that we could share with her and our state legislators into a feature, and work with some of the other ranchers and folks like Lonnie who are trying to manage this, and just they love this land. They're connected to this land very deeply. They're native Hawaiian. There's a lot of layers to this, and so we're excited to kind of keep exploring it and seeing where it goes.
What's the goals for shooting tomorrow? So I'm jumping on to help shoot, so I'm really excited about it.
So Christine is here during like the most exciting week because we got permission from one of the big families here. It is their annual branding day. And so we're covering them as they work this, like harsh lava fields with these cattle, and they're bringing them down the mountain to a 200-year-old stone cattle pen that their ancestors have built and they've maintained all these years. So tomorrow's a big branding day.
I'm excited. I don't know what that means, but that's filmmaking.
Mm-hmm.
Just jumping in and seeing what's up. She's later today. She's supposed to teach. Is the lead, right?
So one of our characters, this woman. It's such a rugged terrain. Like, we can't even get 4-wheel drive out where they're starting, and so this will be interesting. We're not sure how this is going to work, but I'm going to teach one of our subjects, one of our friends here, how to shoot
on a horse.
On a horse.
Yeah, because Alison had a good point. It's probably easier to teach someone who knows how to maneuver a horse how to shoot than to try to attempt it ourselves.
Yeah. Safety is a thing.
Safety, yeah. Can you just imagine? I would like Alison and I were on a horse trying to shoot. We would completely forget we were on the horse and just be like, "Oh my God, that's a great shot!"
I know, just like go off the cliff or something. It would be bad for sure. So anyway, so that's a little bit about what we're working on. Again, we're in early stages. We got a little bit of funding from our local film collective here. We kind of pitched this project, and they're doing like a pitch day. And we won, I guess, and they gave
Yay.
us some money and covering some base expenses. And we're currently, looking to get a bigger sample cut. So hopefully we can get some grant funding. And
So
some
here's a
state funding.
pitch to all the people not in Hawaii.
Right.
Alison wants an editor who will trade living in Hawaii for a few weeks to come edit.
Oh man.
Look at that.
She will be a
Test.
tour guide.
If you test in quarantine,
You have to
good,
quarantine
you know.
do that. Yeah, so to do some editing.
Oh,
So
man, we have so much footage right now. It's been a real treat to get to know this community and get to know these folks and get their permission to come out there, because that's the thing about shooting in Hawaii too. It's like, I'm not Hawaiian, but I born and raised here, and so to be able to work with these indigenous communities and folks like that, it's just it's a real treat. And so we're really trying to collaborate with them to help them tell the story that like hasn't been told yet. And yeah, so having these early conversations and being able to share with them this footage, and hopefully it can do them justice and help preserve some of these traditions, because it's pretty amazing.
it's funny because I'm like, when we go anywhere, I'm like, Alison, I look more like a local than you do.
Yeah.
Everybody just assumes I'm from here.
Everyone's like, where are you from? Well,
Especially now that I'm like extra tan. Yeah, somebody was commenting the glow. I'm like, yeah, it's called a very, very good tan.
And you're next to me, so you just look extra dark.
But yeah, no, this is special because some of you guys may know I started from a documentary background. And so it's always fun to go back to that. And I think it's an interesting mix to be able to cross between documentaries and narratives. Alison, I think you were saying that like you can't really tell a good documentary without understanding narrative elements. Is that what we were saying?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of both. I think what I was saying earlier was like, I kind of hate that people try to pigeonhole documentary filmmakers and narrative filmmakers and just like two separate camps, when really it's like they're two sides of the same coin, really. And the more narrative experience you have, the more narrative experience I've gotten over the years, it's definitely influenced and informed the documentary work that I've worked on and the stories that we're trying to tell. Because you're still trying to hit all the same marks. You're still trying to like get your highs, your lows, who are your characters, what are their struggles, what's your driving question, what is it that you're hoping to explore in that process. Finding the story, I think, is a little different in documentary than in narrative, and structuring it, but structuring it ultimately kind of is the same once you get down to the edit. It definitely takes a lot more organization.
Yeah, it's more documentaries. I think everything for the most part is the same. It's the characters, their struggles, and then like there is a structure to it, but it's
internal conflict.
Yes.
Yeah.
The difference is like you have to find it. You have to hunt instead of the script already being done and all the pre-work done. You find it within the edit.
And things change. That's kind of why I preface this. I'm like, this is where we started, but like, definitely this is an ongoing project. We're sure elements can change. Like when we started, the volcano wasn't going off, so that wasn't even really an issue. And then now that it's gone off and it's like glowing and awesome, it's like, well, I mean, this land is kind of unique, and it's definitely changing. And that is an external struggle that, like, I don't know, ranchers in Nebraska don't have to deal with that. So
no volcanoes there.
Right.
Yeah. No, it's so that's the interesting, and I feel very thankful to be able to dive into it and like just kind of learn a little bit of the history here. I actually pitched to Alison that if we can figure out how to get more films here in Hawaii, I would totally come and do another workcation and just make films here, and then on our lunch break or whatever, let's go to the beach.
I think I sold Christine on this concept after she went swimming with dolphins. She's like, yeah, I could do this again, definitely.
Totally can do this. Yeah, man.
Yes.
Oh, that was our New Year's was epic. Well, mine started off epic where I swam with dolphins. They were like this close. Side note, I have immense respect for people who can do filming plus something else. So filming plus ride a horse, filming plus swimming and not dying. Like people who have that ability to like tack on yet another special set of skills while they're also trying to film, like, is mind blowing to me. Because I'm trying to film with my little iPhone and my little waterproof bag, and I have no clue what I'm filming. I'm like waving this wildly, trying to not drown,
or drop your camera.
or drop my camera or something else. And I'm just like, how do people do this? Like National Geographic, divers, free soloing down there with their camera, and it's like high tech stuff. This is just an iPhone, and I'm like freaking out down there, like just trying to, like, I don't know what I'm shooting. The people on the boat were like, hey, can you send us some footage? I'm like, I have no clue what I shot. It could be great, or I could have shot nothing. And I definitely went through, it was like 10 clips of absolutely nothing. I shot nothing. Yeah. So immense respect for tacking on a skill, which I kind of like, hey, to make myself more marketable, should I like learn to scuba dive, ride a horse, so I can like put that on my resume, be like, hey, I can shoot and ride a horse. I can shoot and scuba dive. What's another like odd skill that you could tack on? You can shoot and climb a mountain.
Unicycle. Climb. Who can shoot in unicycle? That would be impressive. Although you don't need hands for a unicycle, so maybe that's easier than bicycling.
You could use your easy rig. She didn't even have to use. She just got an easy rig, and she doesn't even have to use her hands anymore.
So that I will say, one of the cons of being in Hawaii, yes, there are cons. I'm sorry, is equipment. I was definitely used to working in Austin and having access to equipment or easy rentals. We don't have, this is a very rural island, like we don't have a rental house, we don't have equipment shares. There are very few people on this island that I could call that even like have equipment to use and can use it.
Do other islands have equipment?
Oh yeah, like Oahu's got a great film scene, although like this week we were trying to like build out our equipment list, and like there were just very few options. We're shooting on Canon cameras, and the one rental house like didn't have Canon batteries and things like that. We're just like, okay. So it's a little hit or miss depending on and also it's the holidays, so I think that kind of like impacted.
You can only take what you get.
Is that especially documentary film and film? It's so fly by seat of pants. Yeah. So like it's
we didn't know that we were even going to be shooting like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Literally Christine was like, I'm coming, and I'm like, yay. Also, we're probably shooting, and I might be roping you into this, and I'm sorry, but
like sweet.
I know if anybody that's coming to like hang out after their quarantine, it's like, okay, yeah, you can film. You can film. Okay, great. Cool. Yeah.
So, but
so we had to purchase some equipment. Boohoo.
Lensrentals.com. You can get all your needs, and it can be shipped to Kona.
It's a little pricey, but it's better than nothing.
Yeah, the shipping is the cost of the battery.
Well,
so no, it's documentary filmmaking. It's I miss it, and so I enjoy moments when I get to do it. I think it's I think the term is veritas, when you just
observational
and you shoot
verite.
Yeah, verite. And there is something beautiful about that. I think I apply it to my filmmaking, where I'm a lot open to being flexible with what's in the written word, and what as long as it's solving or moving the plot as is intended. I'm all about utilizing what's happening at that moment and putting that and melding it in with what was originally written. So example, it rains. I've AD'd so many people who like cannot function if something completely deviates from what was originally planned or written. But like, I think as a documentary filmmaker,
you gotta roll with those.
You roll with it. Yeah. You see it and you're like, okay, I can utilize this. How do I make this work? And I think that's what I gained the most through documentary filmmaking, is being able to roll and with the punches and be flexible, and to creatively apply that to
the willingness to compromise.
Yeah, I mean,
yes.
it's like I've never really done like improvisational theater, but it's like that yes and, you know, you're just having to accept something and like move forward with it. And I think that makes things better, because then the surprise is also entertaining to you. You're like, oh, this is keeping me excited about this, because you never know.
Yeah. I always find that if you do it, it actually changes the story and makes it better sometimes. So I can go through and talk about like so many of the films I've shot where it wasn't intentionally that way, but because of circumstances, it made its way into the film. A Bird's Nest, it rained. We implied it into the film, and it's now a huge character in the film, or it's dark and rainy. A Bird's Nest, again, there was a bird's nest, a literal bird's nest, the location. We had already come up with the title before we even saw the corporate story. Somebody was able to donate a bunch of crawfish. We wrote that into the script. What else? I can go on about things that happen serendipitously, and like you incorporate that into the script itself. So, well, that's cool. Do you ever go into a project and kind of make your own conjectures as to what you think will happen?
Oh yeah, I think it's important to kind of like have some kind of concept before you go in, but always be ready to check your assumptions, because those assumptions are very likely going to be wrong. I can tell you, even after doing a ton of research and reading all these books on Paniolo, and even having grown up here and heard, you know, stories and all these legends, but like being on a working ranch with these people, like you just, things are, you got to just go with it. Your whatever concepts you had are definitely they're different, right?
Yeah.
But I think in terms of story, if you don't have a direction that you think you're going to go in, I think it's really hard to then even pivot, you know, because then you're still just like asking all these questions. That's still like a research phase.
Yeah.
You know?
Research, that's an important thing. It's the
Definitely.
same with in narratives too. It's especially topics that you don't know anything about. Research is such a huge aspect. And for me, you know, so that's neat. What's your research process? Like how did you like even think about this idea from the fruition, and then how did you guys start researching? How did it branch out? Like how did you start reaching out to people?
That's a really good question. I think I do a lot of preliminary interviews. Like that's part of like your casting, so to speak, for documentary films. And that's also part of your research. You know, you want to talk to your people that are connected to your subject, who are experts, for cultural advisors. And for us, it's like, you know, we made sure to connect with like Hawaiian cultural advisors to, you know, make sure that we're doing this right and in alignment with our communities and our characters, and also to show them that they could trust us. You know, it's about doing your research, showing up with the right intentions, and then working to build trust. And like,
so who came up with how did you? Because I'd be on the island and be like, I don't know, like who do I even talk to? So how did you knew some? It was your neighbor, but
so my neighbor is not from here either, but we'd connected through some of our friends who are Hawaiian cultural advisors.
Gotcha.
And so we reached out to them initially to ask like, hey, we're interested in doing this as a subject. Do you know anybody that you might recommend that we can talk to? Just sort of informationally.
Okay.
And we had been starting to do a little research. And so we had a list of like names of people that we would want to talk to. And those two lists kind of combined, you know, so that was kind of our first in. And then that's the benefit of working in a small community, is that like everybody kind of knows everybody. And so getting a good reference from somebody who's like connected and like, it's like even one of our subjects, like after talking with her for like half an hour, and she's like, wait, what's your name? Who's your family? And like, she's like, oh, I know your uncle and like all of that. I just saw him last week. You know, so it's like way small town. And like, but that kind of thing also connected us a little deeper, a little further. And yeah, and just it's that trust process. I think it's, you know, yeah, just asking a lot of questions, doing a lot of informational research. That definitely helps to start.
Okay.
Again, the story shifts, things change as things, as you talk to people more and understand, like we, with Lonnie, and I was mentioning, like, we got to know her, we went down and like hung out at a ranch, and then it comes out that like there's all these issues going on with the state and their leases, and we're like, well, that's a big external conflict, and we could do something about that. You know, that's could add to the impacts that could benefit, so that this is a net positive for you, as opposed to right now in documentary film, it's like we throw out these words like extractive filmmaking, where people go in and they're like just documenting people and like what they're doing, they're cool, and then like this is for all these big brands like Yay or whatever, and then that's it. Like these people didn't get paid, they maybe got a cooler, and at the end of the day they're like, yeah, it's not really our life, it's not a good representation of us. It's like what everybody wants us, what they want us to look like, you know. And so that's kind of like, we're trying to avoid that type of stereotypical filmmaking, documentary type of filmmaking, and really be more collaborative in our process, and be intentional about the impact. Yeah. So one of the things that we've also been doing, as in terms of like giving back to this community, is we went and filmed a bunch of high school rodeos because of the pandemic. Family and friends and like usually the stadiums are like full to like support these kids out there like roping and wrangling cattle. It's so cute, they're so adorable. Anyways, but nobody can come because of the pandemic, so we offered to come and film and edit them for the families as a thank you, and like as research on our part too. Like Liz has never been to a rodeo. Yeah. Like we probably should go to a rodeo and see what it looks like for these kids, and part of that process. And so now like the rodeo is like definitely a part of our story, because we just like loved it so much, and see these kids learning these traditions and passing it on, and then to be able to give back in that way to the community too has been really nice. Like we didn't charge them, we're like, we're just gonna show up and like film this, and hopefully we get something good. We like it, but you know, so low stakes, but like giving back. And yeah, so working with different people, it's going to look differently, but we're definitely trying to, and that's something I'm excited about as a documentary filmmaker, is like, what can we do to give back? You know, what can we do to make this a positive impact for folks and communities who want to get involved? Because it's not fun being on the other side of the camera and somebody's like trying to follow you in your life, or, you know, it's weird. I wouldn't want somebody to do that.
I like that goal of impact, because I think that film is such a destructive industry for a lot. It's not just, you think about the impacts on the environment, communities. We go in and we generate a lot of trash, and then like we build stuff that is temporary, and then we don't even like take it down. No. And it's just like, I don't know. It's there's sides everywhere. Like for the most part, like that's what I don't like about filmmaking, is that it's highly destructive, and we accumulate a lot of waste and trash because of it. So and then sort of like there's definitely been horror stories over the years of like people in communities taking advantage,
getting the short end of the stick, you know, and that's and so it's just like you got to be really intentional going in, and that's something that I'm excited to see more and more within the industry overall, that people are aware of and trying to shift. But I mean, impact doesn't mean like huge stuff, you know. It can just be something small.
Conversation.
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest thing is it's even a narrative. Like if we have a topic that's of interest, it's getting people to open up enough to have a conversation, and sometimes that's all that you need. It
can be a really cathartic experience, you know. For you don't want to like open old wounds, but for some folks, like, to be able to dig a little deeper, and when you ask them questions about like, what's your motivation, you know, and they have to sit there and think about it, and they're like, I guess this is my motivation, you know. It can be kind of a cathartic experience, you know. It's cheaper than therapy maybe, but kind of similar.
Let's make a dog plus free therapy, everyone. It's
Yeah.
kind of like that, I guess. For mutually, you find
Yeah.
while you're doing it, you also find things. You discover things about
Mhm.
yourself as well. It's hard not to when you're
Mhm.
diving deep into such issues and being so
Yeah.
vulnerable with each other.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah. So New Year's, do you have any resolutions, Adam?
We're talking resolutions now?
I don't know.
Uh-huh.
It just seemed like a good natural.
Well, I want to
No,
ask a couple of questions about the documentary. Can I, Allison?
Yeah,
Yes, do it.
Go for it.
So I was wondering, so you grew up in Kona.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so what I'm fascinated truly is the cowboy culture that is
Wow.
sort of like I never knew because I have family in Oahu. And for the longest time, I've always seen all walks of life. Like Oahu, it to me is like Mos Eisley spaceport in Star Wars. You just see every walk of life. You see
That's a good way to
everybody,
describe it, yeah. And
tourists,
there's like Chinese, Japanese. It's like it's crazy.
all of
isn't
it, and everyone's my cousin. Yeah, it's weird. So
Oh yeah, family reunion. Yeah.
family reunions are a carnival. It's a carnival, and my question to you though is in preparation of this documentary, did you yourself know the cowboy culture inside Hawaii, or was that sort of like a long time coming that you already knew about, but now this is sort of your moment to kind of not exploit it, but put on a pedestal and put it like to audiences for us to see a kind of a different side of Hawaii that I never even seen. And I have family and I've been to Hawaii and stuff. So
Mm-hmm.
I find that fascinating. Have you always been around the cowboy culture growing up?
Yeah, I mean,
And you're also from here in Texas too.
yes.
Which you already have like that Texas sass with the Hawaii culture, which is awesome. It's kind of like I think everything should have like a hybrid of so many things, like cross genre type of situations, where most documentaries that I've seen like are always like about like how X, Y, and Z is bad, rather than, oh no, this is a documentary that brings all of us closer together and has us like embrace the culture of cowboys in Hawaii, which is crazy to me. I never even knew that even existed.
Yeah, most people don't, and that's like I grew up with it, and so like I not a huge wasn't a huge horse person as a kid. Let me
Right.
be straight with you guys. um, but like we lived next to a big ranch, and so we had opportunity to get to know some of these folks, and I there was a book that I had read years ago that was sort of the history of Paniolo and Parker Ranch in particular.
What's the book
And
called?
it's called Parker Ranch.
Oh,
It's
okay.
like,
Okay.
But what it did was it really shined painted a wonderful picture of what early Hawaii was like. Pre-tourist, pre-sugarcane industry,
Right.
pre-overthrow of the monarchy, just this like, and being in Texas where it's like they talk up this big Wild West game, and then to hear about how these Paniolo literally have to drive the cattle into the water to swim them out to the ships because there aren't any ports, and they're having to fight off sharks from eating the horses and the cattle that are swimming out there together. I'm like, now that is badass.
That is
That
insane.
is way bad. I mean, like, yeah, like this is otherworldly stuff. And all these other little stories about the Paniolo as well started to come out in this research. And as I was like looking into it more, just like kind of utterly fascinated. We wouldn't have the electric guitar today without our Hawaiian cowboys, because they're the ones that pioneered slack key guitar, which got sort of transformed into the slide guitar, the electric slide.
No fucking way.
Which then transformed into this. And so, yeah, I mean, these are innovative, amazing people. And the other thing about that too, the whole cultural preservation, Hawaiian language was outlawed here in the state until the 80s.
Yeah.
It hasn't been that long of a time period that there's been this effort to bring the culture, bring the language, like revitalize this in the space. Like we haven't, like in my lifetime, it's like we're just starting to get more of this. And I love seeing like my little cousins going to Punana like immersion school and being able to speak Hawaiian, and it's amazing. So the cool thing about that too is like Paniolo, these Hawaiian cowboys, like Hawaiian was the common language on the ranch throughout this whole time. So they're the old timers. There's some of the few people left that like that is their only commands on the ranch that they use are this Hawaiian language. And what a better time while they're still alive to be able to go and document that and like share that with these kids. And also it's about, for me too, it's like these are very humble people. They're not going out there advertising themselves. They're not going to talk about, how amazing they are. Like that's just not their style. They're not going to do that. Like that is
which
not
is why we never heard of anything about this.
Oh no, you wouldn't. Exactly. So it's almost like, it's like that's also part of it too, though, is that because if you don't know, guess what? There's a lot of kids that grew up here that don't know either, and they don't realize that it's something to be proud of. It's something of their culture and their heritage to be able to look at and be like, oh, like that's my community, that's my culture. And I think we need more stories like that, though, right now, especially because a lot of this culture is like dying with these older generations. They're not, they're going away very, very quickly, and definitely see that as a storyteller, like that's part of like what you love too, is like, what can we do to preserve these traditions and carry this on? And these are very oral traditions, like names of places and people are very important. And if we don't document that and show that now, like that to me, it gets me really excited. And I don't remember what your question was. I kind of rambled.
No, you answered it. I also rambled too.
I guess I knew about this, and then I read some books, and I got really excited about it. And ta-da! Yeah.
No, that's beautiful. I never. I mean, like I said, like to like now understand, and I'm only beginning to understand like the cowboy culture that is in Hawaii. It kind of shows to me how, like you said, like how little we know in the greater scheme of things in the world, especially happening in Hawaii, a place so peaceful and warm and loving and just all about ohana, and it's interesting to see the other side of that, especially in the culture of like trying to just make a living, just earning, like just making crops and doing the things that you possibly what you possibly can do, and of course, like being in America, we're in the land of opportunity, but in Hawaii's case, it was not really that. It was very much like they were only secluded to what they had around them. And I think it's beautiful, the fact that they only have that and they don't really show off, especially indigenous people. They're not one to kind of flash their wisdom, because they're trying to live just like any other human around the world, and to have that culture, for you to document that is hopefully is going to be somewhat transcendent in a way, because it sort of showcases what and how Hawaii is so fucking awesome the way it is, and why we love Hawaii and stuff. And I don't see much going from that. I just only see, Haoli's trying to take a cruise over there. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, tourists just always want to do something, it's just like, I want to see more original, I don't know, like just something that is real and grounded in the Hawaiian culture, kind of eats, lives, and breathe the aloha spirit.
Well, then I'm definitely excited because I think there's a growing number of like native Hawaiian filmmakers that are
I bet.
starting to really like revitalize their culture, the language, and kind of like I even heard it termed it's like a Hawaiian new wave. You know, there's going to be some very cool projects coming out of here in the next couple of years, and there were 2 films selected at Sundance this year by Native Hawaiians as well. And so it's like, okay, if we can get Hawaii on the map as like a uh, new Louisiana,
Yeah, no, I mean, if Hawaii can,
it's it's
yeah,
an amazing place for stories, and there's some amazing
right.
storytellers, and it's just a matter of time before we are a great access point to the rest of Asia as well as the Americas, so hopefully it's just a matter of time before we can see that happen. It'd be really exciting.
Yeah, I mean, I'm only known a little bit about like, and I only had family. I do have family on Kona, but I have most of my family in Oahu, and
Nice.
most of the time, like the only couple of things that I know that you wouldn't really see in Hawaii is the underground punk scene in Oahu, and apparently in the mid '90s that was a major fucking thing. That was a major. There was like a few only venues that would allow like punk rock music that isn't just traditional luau Hawaiian music, and of course, like, influences of Brother is just kind of like going all over the Hawaiian Islands, but yet you still see sort of like Hawaiian cowboys. There's this not underbelly, but underground thing that nobody really talks about, and that to me is what I look for. So to have a documentary about this is truly something unique. And why do you think that is, by the way, that Hawaii isn't as big as like
A film
I don't think.
hotspot.
Yeah, well, I don't want to say like Louisiana's a big filming spot either, but like, why is it that Hawaii is not really like? I know there's filmmakers. I know there's probably native filmmakers and dedicated, and you especially are amongst them. Why is it that Hawaii doesn't really get the limelight it deserves?
I have been asking myself this question as well as
Right.
like other folks, because I'm really just been back here this year, and this is like my first time like working here in the film industry. But I think what happens is that the bigger shows, like the networks or studios that come out to shoot, we've had Jurassic Park, Jurassic World,
Right.
Jumanji, all these big movies have come out to shoot, and they've built some infrastructure. We've got an amazing studio in Kona, but there hasn't been enough work to keep it going. So I think like I don't even know if anybody's running it right now. Last I checked.
And COVID's a little tough to keep it running, I
Oh
assume, like
yeah,
most
nothing is open.
businesses.
Definitely nothing's open now. I mean,
Right.
even with our low case count, like yeah. Um, and when they do come, even though they build this infrastructure, they're bringing in all their own crew. So there hasn't really been opportunity for training up some of these young kids. And then what happens is they get into it, and then they go to LA or New York, and then they stay because that's where there's work. So the folks that are good, like I left, it's kind of a fluke that I'm back in a way, but I'm excited because I think there's stories and there's a community here that I'm connected to that I want to support. But it's hard to get people back. The cost of living is high. We're really remote. If it's like living in Austin is great because if I needed to work on either coast, it's a quick, easy flight. Mm-hmm. Hawaii is a 5-6 hour flight in any direction. Like that's a long way to go. And so I think that's part of the struggle. And then like I guess of cost. There's bringing in equipment, bringing in crew. You kind of have to build it out yourself in some capacities. So I'm hoping that like we can bring in a little bit more infrastructure and support some of these young folks to like stay and tell their own stories. Like just in the last couple of weeks, I've been contacted by folks who are like, I want to make a documentary and I'm connected to these cool people, but I don't know where to start. I'm like, great, I'm happy to help. I'm happy to support this because it's only going to benefit like everybody if more people can do this and like learn how to tell their own
If we're all
story.
together. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So again, it's like collaborative. It's all about that collaboration and uplifting this community together. I think it's going to hopefully continue to grow. I think so. Because I think people are finding too that they can work remote. Like we can do a lot of things now where we don't have to be in one place, you know? So I'm hoping it'll bring some more good folks back that have like moved away and are ready to come home. And
I think infrastructure is completely
yeah.
it, but also if you bring only your own crew, like there's no giving back. So it's a nice tie.
Yeah, and that's
to,
kind of extractive in how they're shooting too.
Yeah. So that's a nice tie to your whole like. It's important, I think, as filmmakers to try to put in an element of some sort of giving back. Just simply. That's why I really like tax incentives that require. I know people groan about it as producers and stuff because it is like you have to do a little bit more work to get that incentive. But like when they build it in where, hey, a certain percentage to get that incentive needs to come from local work, you know, local crew, or just simply having an intern from a school. You know, that those kinds of stipulations really build in the way of a film project can give back to the community.
Oh, definitely.
And so I feel like that needs to be more so. Louisiana does a good job with that, I think, with some of its incentives. But yeah, I try to mentor students on projects and stuff, and I think it's a responsibility for us to try to build, you know, people who are interested in the film and to involve people who are local. Because if we don't, then they're never going to be able to develop, and then it's a lot of taking. It's just going in, utilizing the resources and getting out, and not actually leaving any sort of benefit from it. So
I think you made a really good point. Sorry, go ahead, Alison.
No.
Yeah, go for it.
Oh, well, no, I was just going to say, like, I think that's pretty right on the nose, because now that we're in 2021, it's not like we have to be in fucking New York or LA to film. You literally can be anywhere, as long, I mean, we have iPhones that shoot 4K.
Yeah.
You know, like we can.
There's a trend. There's a trend of people who are right now, like, and I can tell you, LA, it's all shut down.
Oh yeah.
You can't.
New York shut down.
And in the last 3 or 4
New York
projects,
is cold. Hawaii is warm.
Yeah, it's freezing. Why would you? Yeah, go to Hawaii. Come on.
Give me a break. Last 4 projects or 3 projects I've on, the top of the line were all LA folks that were just shooting outside of LA because they have to, because there's like no way to shoot within LA. So I think there will be, blaming the pandemic or whatever, but I think it's like one of the good things that's coming out is that it's forcing people to move out of the comfort zone.
Be in the native land.
Yeah.
Well, and think about how interesting the stories are in these smaller regions. Like, I think now is the time to be a regional filmmaker. Like, if you're from Wyoming or like Louisiana, even here in Hawaii, it's like, take advantage. Like, there are some amazing local stories, some local people that you can pull together, and you know, and that's kind of the, you know, going back to like documentary film, like stuff that I love is like, work with what you got. You know, find the tools and the resources and the people and the stories that are there that like people are kind of like ignoring. You know, now is the time to.
I think it's an exciting time for filmmaking, because I think it is, you know, we're all on an even playing field for the most part, which is we can't just freely go anywhere, right? And we're limited to utilizing what we're allowed to within the confines of quarantine and whatnot. And so there are certain stories that are coming out now to creatively work around that. And like I said, if you're having to quarantine in your hometown of Kona, you know, what better time than to make a local regional story with the people here, you know? And so.
I mean, and it doesn't hurt that there's an active volcano going off. Like, that's kind of cool.
It's great cinematography. Yeah.
I know. No need for special effects. Real effects,
Right.
guys. Yes.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Now, I mean, we're already approaching an hour, so we can take this bad boy in for our landing.
Cool.
I guess we can go back to Christine's dumb
New
question
Year's,
about New Year's
guys.
resolutions. I'm kidding.
I
It's a good
know.
question. I just wanted to move
I
away
have more
from it.
things to say.
I'm very, like-
I know. Rude. No, but
New
let's.
Year's?
Yeah, it's New Year's. So what's y'all's resolutions? Resolutions.
I already have my resolutions are always goals. So my goal is 2021. I'm going to direct my next feature. That's going to happen. I don't know which one it will be.
You.
Yeah, but it's happening. Yeah, it's happening, and I have, despite having enjoyed my work, my vacation, I have actually been writing and working and have something in the works. So that's my biggest thing is I want to bring the people who have been a huge influence and helped me along my way in my journey career and giving back and bring them on to my next project. So, and then
so that she can have a sequel that will be shot here in Hawaii, and she
Exactly.
can come back.
Totally.
And we can
Yes.
train up our local crew, and
I can totally see that. In 3 years, Christine's totally going to be like, yeah,
I'm
so
just gonna be
I moved to
fun.
Kona. So yeah, I'm here in Kona now. I live here.
every day, guys. It's fine.
Yeah, exactly. Are you coming back to Texas? Probably not, but you can come visit.
Yeah. How about you?
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. That's you.
Wait.
I thought you were talking to me for a second.
I feel like it's like day one of 2021, so like I'm keeping my expectations still pretty like low.
Good idea.
I'd be really happy if we can get some funding and support for this project and just be able to see it through and done in the right way. Yeah, I mean it's been a real treat to be able to channel all this energy and this time that we've been gifted. I mean, I'm just really thankful for all that, and to get a new project off the ground, and so baby steps. I'm just like,
That's
one
a good
step
one.
at a time.
The wheels are
I
turning.
have an award-winning documentary. I'll direct the feature, and then what are you gonna do, Adam? You're gonna finish your script.
Yeah, that's me. That's it. I just gotta be less lazy. I've been doing a lot of procrastinating, like a lot of people have. It is what it is. You
Good.
can't.
Happy New Year's. That sounds
Yeah,
great.
and it sucks that there's just so many dope video games that just came out, and I just needs all of my attention. So I've been slowly and surely. I now have I now have like this new like scheduling thing where like every single day I just have this like at the end of the day I always I always have to make myself an agenda every single day because
You have an agenda now? Holy shit.
Oh, I want to roast you so bad, Christine. I won't though because I'm nice boy Adam today. Don't mess with me, Christine. That's strike one. So so I made myself an agenda. Fuck you, Christine. And I'm making this schedule for myself just so I can keep myself organized because me and my stoner brain just can't comprehend to like do one thing at a time. But most of the time I'm like, oh, I'm going to do this thing. Wait, I'm going to do this thing. Wait, I'm going to do this thing. I think I have ADHD. I'm pretty sure I do. But I just sort of like developed this like neat little way of just kind of having this rhythm of, okay, I wake up, get coffee, look at my agenda, boom, I'm already back to work. I'm going straight in and I don't have to, it's like little to no effort, especially when it comes to writing and how close I am with finishing the script and stuff. You just gotta schedule that. So anybody out there, get a journal too. I mean, journaling is almost essential for a writer. I mean, I've been journaling every single day, and it is by far, that's one thing I'm thankful for 2020 and the pandemic, is that it took me and planted my ass on the fucking chair and like writing something. And
Right.
to just start this journaling thing of everything that's just like bothering me and shit that is like going on and then shit that's not going on and why I feel jealous or why I feel angry or why I feel sad or why I feel, whatever. I just put it in the journal and it just like changes perspective for me for the good. And then I kind of move on from there. And then sometimes like I'll read back and I'm just like, wow, last week Adam was kind of a bitch. Jesus Christ, what was going on with me? And then I just sort of like, fix it from then on. And that's just what I'm trying to do. But yeah, just like Alison, it's the first day of the new year. It's not like I have all
think you
these
nailed it with,
resolutions.
like the pandemic, for some people being a blessing where it's made us slow down, and I'm excited.
Don't get me wrong, I've had mental breakdowns. Like I've caught myself crying in the shower every day. Don't get me wrong. This has been a shit show for me, but I'd rather take the opportunities rather than create more problems.
Right, and I think that's what the beauty is that what I feel like people should take out of the pandemic is it forced us to stop and smell the roses, right?
Yes.
And I'm interested in seeing how all these artists who have been forced to do that, all the stuff that they're prepping and writing and what all that's and seeing that now once it really opens up, what kind of content we're going to be seeing. I'm excited.
I hope the investors are getting ready with their pocketbooks to put some money into new talent and
give up that cash. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because I think you're right. I think that I think there's going to be some cool stuff that comes out of it.
I think so too.
Oh yeah, and I'm excited for your documentary, Alison. So
Thank you for letting me share that with you guys. I hope we can share something soon. Yeah.
And come back. Feel free to come back on the podcast too, and talk more about it. And we love every filmmaker.
Aww.
Maybe not all, but at least all the people here on the podcast so far have been dope.
Nice.
Especially you. So, all right, ladies and gentlemen, this has been, we are now clocking over an hour and 5 minutes now.
Happy New Year's.
Happy New
Year's. Year from Kona. Happy New Year to all you filmmakers.
Happy New Year's from Austin, Texas. You guys, this is, listen. It's fucking cold here. It's like super dumbass cold. Like I went outside with my dog and it just got straight to the bone, like cold. I'm like, fuck this. I'm going back inside. Like,
I'll be joining you guys in a few days. So,
yeah. And you know what's funny is that it's going to be like 70 degrees on Sunday. So it's going to be nice and warm when you fucking come back.
Yeah, bring the Hawaii weather back.
Yeah, that's what we need. Thank you, Facebook. Thank you, Instagram. We love you. This has been Get Reelisms podcast.
Yes, about filmmaking and filmmaking stuff.
Thank you, Facebook. We love you. Happy New Year's, everybody. Catch us next week. Oh, getreelisms.com. Pick up your book today.
Go get a book.
Go get a book. Go get a t-shirt. Make yourself useful. Okay?
Yes.
Yeah. And if anybody wants to follow, I guess I'm going to be posting things on my Instagram about this.
Look your Instagram. Christine hates the fact that I plug her Instagram, so please go ahead.
Okay. How do I do that?
Just say follow her at.
Oh wait, what is my Instagram?
Oh, that's a problem.
That is a problem. I think it's just my name, Alison Week.
Yes, Alison Week.
I think
Alison Week on Instagram, Twitter.
Oh, it is.
It is Alison Week. ALISON. WEEK.
And we only have an Instagram. Do we have a Twitter too to plug?
No, I'm just like starting to get back on social
media. Twitter's a bad
media.
Neighborhood you don't want to go through. Yeah.
I'm gonna plug it, and we'll hopefully post some stuff on it soon. But feel free to check it out there.
Check it out, you guys.
Or look for opportunities to come hang out here in Hawaii and make content and edit.
I mean, I do have a spare room and I have an editing studio.
Or if any filmmaker in Wyoming watching this, make your film in Wyoming. Make your film. Make it happen. Make it real. Make it sweet. Make it cool. You guys, this has been Reelisms Podcast. We're done.